Hi, I'm Marshall Omerode, and I'm from Kennewick, Washington. And there's an R in Washington, by the way. I don't wash my clothes, just so you know. So my dad was from Virginia, so he always said Washington, so we washed our clothes, and it was George Washington. Anyway, so I'm a little bit different. Have a lot of fun, and I come to Utah every year. Last year, I was decided to be Nephite number 3, Jonas, and I have a sign that has all the things in uh, what is it? Third Nephi chapter 28 has all the characteristics of the 3 Nephites. They're not gonna die. They're gonna live and bring souls to Christ while the world should yet stand. So they're running around witnessing before nations, kindreds, tongues, and people. So it's interesting. I don't know where they're at, but I thought, if I show up as a Nephite, maybe they would come and tell me I'm a phony Nephite. You're the phony, we're the real. I haven't seen them yet, but we're waiting for them. Anyway, as a person that's 73 years old, people don't like to talk to me because they think I might know something. So I find that the older I get, the harder it is to talk to people. They want to just ignore me. They want to talk to the young people. So I had to figure out how that works. And I was praying and asking God about it. Well, if I do something different, the people will look at me and they'll come talk. And it seems like the Nephite outfit now only gets the hardcore people. The wimpy people, the wimpy Mormons just keep walking. And oh yeah, fine, nice helmet. I get that kind of stuff. And this year I bought a helmet for $100 on the way to Arkansas at one of those trinket shops. I saw it. I said, man, that's a lot of money. The guys are going, you got to have this for Utah. No, I don't think so. But we were there long enough. They convinced me, so I bought the helmet. So the helmet's even better. I used to have a tight thing that looked like a more authentic Nephi. This is more Roman, but the Roman helmet, it's wrong. So once in a while I get somebody who tells me that's not the right helmet. So then they get to talking to me, and that's where I work. I want to break the silence of them just walking by, ignoring the Christians. They've been told to ignore us. They've been told not to talk to us. The Mormon Church doesn't want them to get out, so they don't want them to hear the truth. They don't want them to go on the websites that have the information that will help them realize they've been lied to. So I like to use simple things. So one of my simpler things that I use now, I've been doing this since 1983. I've been going to Utah every year since 1985. You see the Mormons in the streets. It's been a lot of fun. It's really been a learning experience for me. My faith has gotten stronger in the Bible, and I run into Catholics, Seventh-day Adventists, of course Mormons, polygamous Mormons. I've been down to the creek and talked to people in the polygamous Mormon group down there, and it's just been a lot of fun. So I've met 2 general authorities just for fun, one in Hawaii and one here in Salt Lake City. I get to talk to them and ask them. When I first started in '83, I got 2 books. I'm really not a reader. I didn't like to read, so I didn't have a library. And my first topic was the changes in the Book of Mormon, and the second topic was the Book of Abraham. And so I've always been intrigued in the Egyptian papyrus and Egyptian, hieroglyphics and stuff. So it just was kind of interesting. And so that was just one of the topics I decided, well, you know what, I'm going to get that topic and do that. And so I've been learning Egyptian hieroglyphics over the years, and I've discovered an easy way to use the Egyptian papyrus. So since I learned all these things, I learned how to use the Book of Mormon against them. I used to carry these big, huge, full, they're not briefcases, they're big, full cases of books. I had all these books, History of the Church, and, you name it, I had it in there. Addressed to all believers in Christ. What does it say there? Bob Riddy. Just a bunch of books and lots of things that I would go to. And I realized after a while that the easiest thing, and they would say, well, that's this guy's opinion, Mormon Doc and Luce Makaki. Say, Luce Makaki, what are you talking about, really? He's an apostle. Who do I believe, him or you? And they'd say, okay, yeah, we believe Bruce. So bottom line was, when I got to using the Book of Mormon, it was, they can't argue with it. So I really like it. A witness that is irrefutable, a witness that is absolute. No one can, when they get done, it's like, I'm absolutely got the right God, they got the wrong God. And so I carry in my left pocket, I'm just going to share a few things with you now. I should carry in my left pocket all the time a Book of Mormon. And I show it to Mormons, I show it to Christians. I say, this is my left pocket. You know why it's in my left pocket? At first they don't know unless they talk to me. I tell them most in my left pocket because it's not right. So I've just told the Mormons to go straight to hell, and they laugh. I mean, they think it's so fun. Keep it in plastic bags that wear it out, but I don't. And they just think it's fun that I have humor. I love having humor. I love talking to them. It's a blast. And so then in my right pocket, I have, of course you would think, it might be the Bible, and sure enough, it's a New Testament. And I had a friend of mine, easier that way, make a cover for it. So I show him this side first so they can see the cross, which is way cool. And then I flip it over and I show him my verse. This is Titus 1:9 in the NIV. And it says, hold firmly to the trustworthy message as it has been taught, so you can encourage others with sound doctrine, where that would be the truth. And Christians don't want to see this part, refute those who oppose it. So when the Mormons knock on your door and you say, oh, that's nice, that's not refuting. When you say, oh, that's too bad, now you're doing what the Bible says to do. And you're in a conversation. When I tell a Mormon that's too bad they're Mormon, I'm in a conversation. What do you mean by that? Now, if they ask me, what do they mean by that? They just gave me permission to witness to them. And that's what I want. I want to be able to talk with them. Now, I'm not mean about it, but I am humorous about it. So they love to talk to me after they get to know me. And they can't wait to hear the next thing they don't want to know about. So it's the funniest thing in the world. So I tell them in my other right pocket, my wife and I went to Israel with our church. Pastor Steve Winery, it's Calvary Chapel, Tri-Cities, Kennewick, Washington. I'd have to check it. And I way underestimated what Steve was doing. I mean, he'd been going to Israel for probably 10 or 15 times. After the third time, he ran into a tour guide that was Aussie. And he has the best tour guide from the whole country of Israel. He's a retired lieutenant colonel in the Israeli military, and everybody knows him. You know, in Israel, it's so small, everybody knows Abe. And Abe is the guy. And so I'm going there thinking, oh, I'm just going with my church. It's dumb. I wasn't just going with my church. It's been going with my pastor, who's a brainiac. The guy has a pictorial mind. He memorizes stuff in scripture that I could just far surpass. And so I can't even compare myself to him. So that's why I go to that church. I never waste my time. Every pastor studies more than I do in something I'm not studying usually. So I'm studying something else. So iron sharpens iron. So anyway, I'm in Israel. I'm thinking, Holy Land, I got to find evidence that the Bible's true. And so I like coins. So I said, widow's mites. I remember that in the Bible. So I was looking for widow's mites, and I found a bunch of replicas, and they were selling them like they were real. They would tell you they're replicas. They have patina on them and everything, but they all look the same. And so I walked in one store, and I asked the guy, was in our motel. I said, where do I buy real ones? So I didn't even tell him that his were fully. And he said, oh, you have to go in the main part of Israel, into the main city, and through the gates, and you'll find real ones there. So he admitted they were phony, and they were replicas. And so I went to the main gate by myself after we'd already gone in there with the tour, and they have free time. My free time, I left my wife at the motel, and I went to Israel. I bought real ones that wore out for like $30 to $50. The ones I have in my pouch here, and I buy replicas. So the ones in the pouch here, I'll pull one out here. One side is a chariot wheel with the spokes. So that's a kind of a stylized chariot wheel. The other side is an anchor. So Rome doesn't have a face on their penny. They have an anchor and a chariot wheel. So what they're saying is, we have an army and a navy, don't mess with Rome. And that's on their pennies. So their gold and silver, they have faces on it, okay, but not on the penny. They're giving it because the rich people have to get pennies too. Everybody has the same warning. So the penny of widow's mite, this condition is worth $1,000 in Israel. And why do I know that? Because we went to a place where they had widow's mites in this condition, and I wanted to see them, and I was talking to the guy, and then another couple came in our group. they came up and they said, oh, we'd like to buy some widow's mice. So he ignored me, and he pulled a bunch of them out, put them on the table, and then they were on the table there, and they did like this. We'll take this one, we'll take that one, we'll take this one, and they took 13 widow's mice, and I followed them. I went to the cash register because I knew they were going to pay for them, and I waited for them, looking the other way, of course, looking around, listening. And they paid $13,000 for 13 of these in this condition. So they were looking for real ones, probably giving them away as Christmas presents. They were a lot richer than I am. So I bought the replica widow's mice, and I buy them by the hundreds, by the thousands actually, and I give them away to people. So I give the Mormons a widow's mite from this little old antique pouch. You can still buy them if you go on the line. So these are evidence that the Bible's true. Now the widow was there, Jesus was there with his apostles at the temple, and they're watching people put gold and silver into the temple offering. Now the widow comes in and puts 2 mites, there were 2 pennies in, and Jesus says she put in more than all the rest because she put in all she had. That's why I wanted to get widow's mites, because of that story. Well, I thought, I'm a math major, science major, so I believed in evolution a long time ago. And I believed, and I'm a math guy. I love math, love science, love chemistry. Not so much physics, but I get physics too. But anyway, so I'm thinking about the mathematical part. Okay, she's putting in a percentage higher. It's 100%. They're only putting in, 5%, 10%, 20%, whatever they're doing. They're putting in a percentage, but they're rich. They're not putting everything in, where she's putting in everything she has. So I was thinking percentage because of math grad. That's the first thing he saw. And so for years, probably 10 years, maybe 7 years, I'm thinking percentage, or maybe all my life, I'm thinking percentage, right? And then when I started giving them away, something hit me about 2 years ago. She's all in. What are we all in on? Are we all in on standing for Jesus? Are we all in on a marriage? Oh, I'm going to divorce my wife. What are we all in on? Are we all in on, I'm going to go read my Bible. I'm going to study my Bible. I'm going to read what it says 100%. Even though I don't understand it, whatever it says, that's what I'm buying. Because there's a mystery of godliness that I don't know. I don't know how it is that God knew beforehand who was going to get saved and who wasn't. I don't know how it is we have free agency if he already knows. I don't know those things. So there's a mystery of godliness, but I'm still going to go out there because I know he wants me to go. And so I'm going to do what God wants me to do. Are we all in on that? Or are we just, well, that's for those guys, and I'm really not going to do that. It's a Marshall weirdo guy. He wears weirdo shirts, and he makes a weirdo look, and he's kind of makes, himself look stupid. And my wife wonders, what are you doing, Marshall? You are not normal. I'm not normal because Paul wasn't normal. Jesus wasn't normal. They didn't crucify him because he was such a nice guy. They crucified him because he offended them. And if you haven't offended anyone for Jesus' sake, what good are you? Jesus said, if you do not profess me before men, I will not profess you before my Father in heaven. Now, none of the translations say profess. They can say confess. Well, if I confess something, it means I did something wrong. In all reality, the real meaning is profess or declare. That's what it's saying. Now, I don't want Jesus to confess me before the Father. I want him to declare me before the Father. I want him to profess me before the Father. If I get to the pearly gates, and maybe St. Peter's there, maybe isn't, and somebody says, Marshall, why are you even here? Am I trusting God? If I am, I'm going to say, it's not about me. I'm going to say, see that guy over there? Go ask him. Because he promised if I trust him, believe him, and follow him, I get to come in. So go ask him if he's a liar. And I'm talking about Jesus, of course. That's the thing we need to think about. Am I trusting my Bible study? Am I trusting my pastor? Am I trusting my mom and dad? Am I trusting myself? What am I trusting? Am I trusting Jesus? We're in America here. We don't say anything. So obviously, we're not like Paul. And we're going to follow Jesus, and we don't say anything. Matter of fact, I want to do this, so I'm going to make everybody else, do what I want them to do. They have to do it my way. So it has to be my way or it's not right. That's not really listening to God. God made each of us different. So we each get to do different. I'm not like anyone here, and yet I am like everyone here. Because We all trust Jesus here. And we're all out here witnessing the Mormons because we know they're lost. We know they're going straight to hell. We know that their definition of Jesus is not the same definition. We know their Jesus failed twice. He failed to keep his church going in Israel. You know, they say sometime after the last apostle died, the church fell away. Jesus said, I will never leave you or forsake you. I will be with you till the end of the age. The gates of hell will not prevail against my church. So he's a liar. And then Jesus supposedly, according to the Book of Mormon, came to the New World, and he picked out 12 more apostles, and he trained them, hand-trained them to go witnessing. And it mentions it in 3 Nephite chapter 28 about them witnessing. 3 Nephites are going to be here forever until he comes back in his second coming, witnessing to nations, kindreds, sons of people all over the place in America and in the whole world. So the Nephites are, that's why I'm a Nephite, because maybe I'll meet one of those guys. So that, then there was wars and rumors of wars in the Book of Mormon, says that. And then the last apostle, Moroni, buried the plates in the hill Cumorah. And for 1600 years, they stayed there, and the church was not in existence, according to Mormon church. This is just Mormonism. We can talk to anybody else there, they said store. And then Joseph Smith dug up the place and he restored the church. That's the Mormon story. What they don't think about as they say that story is the fact that Jesus failed twice. He started his church in vain. Only when the apostles were still alive did the church even still exist. And once the apostles died, he couldn't keep his church going. That is a failure, Jesus. So he failed twice. It's a double failure. And I told one Mormon here on the streets 2 years ago, I said, and if it wasn't for Joseph Smith, he'd still be a double failure. And that Mormon goes, well, that's not right. I said, did I say something wrong? He said, no, you were right, but that's not right. I said, you're right, that's not right. He said, the Mormon church lied about that there. I go, yeah, they're kidding, they did. So he came out of the Mormon church in one encounter, in 20 minutes. He asked me this question without being prompted: will you pray for me for salvation? I didn't prompt him. I went through quite a few things, like 7 topics in 20 minutes, quick. And I said, no, I don't pray for people. I said, you can just pray to God straight up. And he goes, wait, please pray for me. I don't know how to pray. I said, okay, I'll pray for you. So we prayed for him to receive Jesus and to follow Jesus in his life. And I gave him an example of what it's like to have a free gift. And so he got some free money. And then he got to earn some money. So he got money twice. And he says, so he realized what was going on there as a visual aid. So bottom line is, why am I here? I'm here because I love doing what Jesus wants me to do. I love. And do I understand that other people don't want to do it? Yes, I do. Does that make them not Christian? No, it doesn't. I'm sorry. But, I just see such joy coming here and having answers. When I first came here the first year, I did not have answers. And I got beat up a bit, and I don't think I ever lost. I just didn't know all the answers. And then as I went through these and I talked to Jesus about it, and there'd be a Bible verse show up. Wish I had that 20 minutes ago, It's like amazing how these things happen. So bottom line is, my other pocket, I got one more pocket. And then I only had 2 pockets when I started. And then I went to Israel and I got 2 more pockets. So my last pocket was these are all the replicas of the coins mentioned in Alma chapter 11 in the Book of Mormon. And these are all the ones they found so far that prove the Book of Mormon is true, 100%. So I got to show you the coins. Here we go. These are all the coins they found so far. So it's hard to show nothing because it's hard to have nothing to show nothing with, right? You have nothing to do. So it took me a while to figure out how to show nothing. I have to have something to put the nothing in, and then I can show nothing. So that was how I did that. And so the Mormons go away with a widow's mite or 2, depending on how many you give them, in the right hand, proving the Bible's true, evidence the Bible's true, and they go away with nothing in their left hand, so they don't have any proof the Book of Mormon's true. And I've never had a Mormon argue with me saying, oh, I've seen the coins. Never have I seen them. So it's amazing. One Mormon many years ago thought there might be coins, and I said, man, remember the Brigham Young gold coins that he made when he was, he said, yeah, I've seen those coins. I said, they're not old enough. Okay, they don't work. You go, oh yeah, you're right. So I never really had a Mormon ever complain about that. They just set up. I won, they lost. They have a decision now to make. Am I going to stand with the truth, or am I going to stay with the lie? And many Mormons stay with the lie because it's mom's faith, it's dad's faith, it's the faith I was raised in. All my friends are there. They have beautiful girls there. They have an indoor basketball court. We can play basketball, volleyball there. There's so many things that they do. They have an organized missionary, thing I can be part of. And if I get the golden underwear, I can be gold. Obviously the underwear is white, but if I got the right underwear, then I can be somebody in the Mormon church. And so Mormon church is all about privilege. I can be the president. I could be the first preceptive counselor. I can be the bishop. I can be whatever if you're rich. If you're poor, I know some poor people, that were you ever asked to be a bishop, never asked to get anything. So it's kind of more about privilege and how much money you have and how rich you are and who you are. That's not how Jesus was. He said, don't take that first step, that first place of honor. Take the last place and have somebody move you up. Okay? That's what you should be doing. Be humble enough, but still be bold around. So how can you be humble and be bold at the same time? I think that's something we need to learn. And we don't learn it inside the church. So get outside your church. Now, I was raised in a wimpy church. I was raised in the First Christian Church in Kennewick. And I never heard the word Trinity. So I was at Long Beach City College, a secular college, Long Beach, California. There was a commotion in the public speaking area. I walked over there, and the Christians were being slaughtered because they didn't have any evidence about evolution. Evolutionists just creamed. So I walked up to one of the Christians and I said, you guys picked the wrong topic. I was an evolutionary creationist. I believe God used evolution at that time. Since then, I found that I was wrong. And when you find out you're wrong, you can change, you can stay wrong. You could get wronger, which is bad English, good theology, or you can get righter, bad English, good theology. You have the opportunity. So I listened to them. I told them they had the wrong deal. And he said, are you Christian? I go, yeah. He said, Trinitarian? I said, no. You're not Trinitarian? I said, no. He said, well, what church you go to? I said, go to Baptist church over here. He said, well, you're Trinitarian. I said, yeah. See, I never heard the word. I'm in college. I'm over 18 years old. I'm in college, never heard. My church never taught me anything, the essential. So at that point, I'd been baptized by a pastor that probably wasn't a Christian. And I believed that God had a son without having one as well. And if you would ask me, was Jesus God? I'd say, no, God the Father is God. Jesus is the Son of God. I didn't hear those verses. I wasn't a very good reader. I had dyslexia, super slow reader. I'm still pretty slow, but I'm better now. And so, bottom line is, what do you do with that? You need to get outside the four walls. You need to teach the truth to people inside the four walls and get outside the four walls and talk to people. When I go to the store, I look and I see all these people and I think, Jesus said, few there are that get to go to heaven. Few. That means most of these people are going to hell. And if I don't say something, they're not going to hear something from a Christian because Christians are quiet. So that's the problem with my church I was raised in. The Christians were quiet. So raise your voice, get accurate, read your scriptures, and get out there and tell people about Jesus. That's what he wants.